Thank you so much, Alex. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on billing and receiving reimbursement for DME and orthopedics. This is one of those topics that can be a real struggle for practices for a lot of reasons. First of all, the coding is not very black and white. None of coding is real black and white, but this is exceptionally difficult because there are so many different kinds of DME that can fall under one particular code that it makes it difficult to determine sometimes which code you should be using. The other thing is if you're not controlling the DME in your office and have some kind of process, you could be having potential losses versus profits. One of the largest practices that I work for a revenue cycle management company that services only orthopedic and musculoskeletal specialty practices. And one of our largest and oldest clients always had a problem with DME before they really got control of it because physicians would just go to the closet and pull out a DME and hand it to the patient and then forget to mark it on the encounter, or their staff forgot to mark it on the encounter, or they didn't even think to mark it on the encounter. And so things were walking out the door and not getting billed. And so they had a real problem with keeping track and inventory and managing the process. And they have about 30 physicians. So they actually created a DME, what they call their DME store. And it is a room within their building that they dispense the DME from. Much better and easier way to management. They have a certified orthotist in there, and so and everything's managed in inventory, and everything's kept in that room, and only those that are assigned to that area have access to the inventory. So it has turned into a much more profitable venture than it was prior to them getting it organized, so to speak. So on the agenda for today, we want to talk about the current CMS information related to DME. We want to talk about the current OIG work plan for DME. What are the documentation guidelines? What is the, how do I assign HCPCS codes? I'll show you what I use to do that. And how do you determine the charge? That's always a challenge too for practices. Just talking to somebody this week, you want to be competitive, and yet you don't want to be losing money. And sometimes, let's be quite frank, the patient can go get the same item down at the local drugstore or Walmart or even online for a much less expensive charge a lot of times. And so we want to try to control that. And then insurance compliance and inventory management. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then replacements and returns and what your policy should be about that. I'll then talk, a patient can go get the same, talk about the resources that I have that I used for this presentation and what I use to work with the DME. So looking at the current CMS guidelines, we have to keep in mind that there are Stark laws, and the basics of Stark laws is that you cannot refer to places that you own. As a provider, you can't refer to places that you own and certain facilities. Now, in the DME world, there's exceptions to that. Canes, crutches, walkers, and